Okay, welcome to the Stew Review on location. Back to audio today, I think. Much better. Don't want to see our ugly mugs. So I'm not on location, and Toby
So,
Toby is on location. Do I gather you're somewhere around Nottingham today, Toby?
and indeed, I'm at the edge of Sherwood Forest, the famous Sherwood Forest, beneath a canopy of oak trees. So I'm
Very
legitimately, and just off Sherwood Road. So I'm legitimately
properly
on
Sherwooding it.
the right place to talk about films based in Nottingham. Of course, the main ones being the obvious Robin Hood series, which was
Indeed.
started back in 1922.
Oh, very good.
Wanted to talk about trailers first, I understand.
Yeah. So yeah, should we just do a quick bit of trailers then? We got the.
Yeah, interesting ones actually, weren't there?
Yeah. I thought there was. I mean, actually, it's kind of. I mean, it's sort of two action films, a Tarantino film, and something probably almost best not talked about. Um, but yeah, we'll do it in chronological order. So first one we have is the man from.
You think you are kidding,
Oh,
mister?
you see, I mean that's one time. If we had visual, it'd just me be sort of crying in my hands at what I've just seen. Anyway, we'll do a chronological order, which means we're starting from which is actually was out this weekend, I think, in most places, which was The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which was Guy Ritchie's latest offering, starring Henry Cavill, obviously from Superman, and Hugh, the bumbling Englishman Grant, also gets a bit of a role in it. So, yeah, from watching that, Toby, what did you think?
I thought it was. It didn't look very inspiring, really, and another reboot of '60s series. I think some mogul or other just wanted to carry that trend on, and I think Guy Ritchie's probably just up with his hand out, and has just gone through the motions. Possibly, it didn't look very inspiring. I'm not particularly inspired by the Cavell, the leader actor, or anybody else I saw in it. I'm not sure what character was Hugh Grant playing. Presumably
I'm not too sure exactly what his character name is, but he seems to be some kind of sort of authority figure, kind of probably not involved in too much action, but probably delivering a few kind of quips or something from on high by the look of things.
he'll be the agent's sort of boss, probably.
Yeah, that sort of thing. I mean, it looks like it's a bit more kind of Revolver than it is kind of Snatch or Lock, Stock, really, in that sense. I think he's probably almost hit his high watermark with his first two films in that kind of sort of London gangstery kind of that sort of land. It'll probably be alright. I mean, it'll have a good soundtrack. I mean, you can usually rely on that from a Guy Ritchie film, at least. But I know what you mean from saying that, yeah, usually, again, Lock, Stock and Snatch had very strong lead roles with Statham and Brad Pitt as well, obviously, in Snatch. And Cavill just doesn't quite have the gravitas, at least at this stage, to really pull that off, I wouldn't say. Do you want to move on to the next one, or anything else to add?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Quick move on. Yeah.
Okay, so next one is the Transporter. I don't know what we're up to now, 4 or 5, which is the Transporter refueled because the Stath is not appearing in this one as what's his name? Frank Martin's the lead role, isn't it? It's now Ed Skrein, who hasn't been in too much, but he does seem to be kind of on the rise slightly. I think he was in the Sweeney with Ray Winstone in 2012. So he's obviously kind of done the London thing already.
Is that the main guy? I thought is Nicholas Hoult in it? I have to admit I was.
I don't know. He may have been in the. I don't remember seeing him in there.
When you mentioned this and I went to see it, I was actually quite busy. I seem to remember shaving and only half watching it because we were about to do a podcast and then we had technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So and I just thought that I saw that Nicholas Hoult actor who was in About a Boy,
Well, and Mad Max Fury Road, and I think I think it's Ed Skrein, but he does look a bit like Nicholas Hoult.
Okay, so yeah.
As I said, I mean, from when I had a look, all he's really been in is he's in Game of Thrones as well, but film-wise, he's in the Sweeney. And yeah, I mean, the Transporter is what it is. It's kind of a fairly sort of dumb action film, but generally quite good action, not really offering much more beyond that. Suitable for its target audience. Although, I mean, whether Screen's going to have the pull factor of the Stath, as going back to the Guy Ritchie thing with Jason Statham. He's a good action role. What do you think?
perhaps he was just demanding too big a salary, and they just dropped the budget.
Told him to get lost.
Dropped him for some much smaller actor.
Yeah, well, I think the directorship for that film's also been taken over by I think it might have been the guy who edited the last Transporter film. So I think they may have pulled back the budget somewhat in this, and probably the two big expenses were the director and the lead star. So they've cut both of them out of the picture if that's the case. Anyway, so do you reckon you watch that one, catch it on the small screen? I mean, it's good sort of brainless fun. It's probably about the best way.
Yeah, a brainless fun which is palatable with something like, good old Brit Staith in there. Otherwise, I'm not particularly interested in that kind of fare, really.
Okay, well, see if you're a bit more interested in the next one, which is Tarantino's. Don't know what he's on now, 8-9 films, something in that region, depending if you include Death Proof, I suppose. It's an interesting looking one, The Hateful Eight. It's got a bit of an ensemble cast. It's got Channing Tatum, Samuel L. and Kurt Russell all coming out. So it's this, usual fairly big name cast, which I guess you always get attached to a Tarantino film, because they have a lot behind them when they do arrive. So yeah, what did you better, worse than his previous films? How do you rank this one from what you've seen?
I have to say I couldn't really garner and gather what was going on in this, except for it was going to be a little bit of a rehash of his first one,
Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, with the big 8 characters, and they have a mix-up, and there's a fight, and and it will revolve around some ring or case or gold bullion or something or other. It's always worth a look. Tarantino, as you mentioned before, the soundtrack's going to be good, and the cinematography in his last film was absolutely great, even on the small screen where I watched it. So always worth a look, absolutely. Yeah,
I'd say I think visually it looks good. Again, going back to the Guy Ritchie thing, the music's going to be good. Although, I think in terms of narrative, at least at this point in the trailer cycle, there'll obviously be a couple more to come out. Didn't really look like there's a particularly interesting narrative going on, and none of the characters look particularly charismatic. Whereas obviously you had Inglourious, you kind of had Brad Pitt turning up and looking quite interesting. Reservoir Dogs again, and Samuel L. and what's his face in Swordfish, in Pulp Fiction.
The one impression I got from the trailer was that it looked a little bit like Tarantino was sat round a bit bored, having cups of coffee with a couple of his actor mates, and said, "Hey, do you know what? I want to make another film." And them throwing a couple of ideas and going, "Yeah, that's great, man," and writing a couple of fairly flimsy plot ideas, and then just having the cash and the cameras to get on and do it.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out over the couple. I'm sure we'll keep a tab on it anyway. Come out over the couple of weeks, see if see where it goes. So the last one. So yeah, this is. Actually, The Hateful Eight was out the 8th of January. I should probably mention. It's out the 8th of January, so it's quite a long way off still. So they're giving it a long burn. Even further afield, the 5th of February is a reboot of Dad's Army. Directed by, it just gets worse and worse the more you read it, really. So not only is it a rebuilt, a bit of a pretty terrible 70s and 80s British TV show, it's directed from the guy that did Centurions and only the sequel to the Johnny English film, not the original. Stars Toby Jones, Michael Gambon, basically all of the old British actors. So Toby Jones, Michael Gambon, Bill Nighy. It's also got Catherine Zeta-Jones, probably in one of her first pictures in quite a while. Was your head in your hands, Toby, when you saw this?
My head was probably shaking somewhat in a sort of mild despair, because actually some of the original series I quite enjoy, but going on the premise that most trailers will put in 2 or 3 of the funniest moments. Going by this trailer, if they were the best moments, then it's going to be woeful.
Yeah.
Bill Nighy doing that little sort of neurotic head spasming thing that he does in place of acting sometimes, and that's supposed to sort of be amusing. And John, he can't. I don't think follows John Le Mesurier, and even. Oh yeah, Toby Jones. Even though he's a good actor, I don't think he's going to
do Captain Mannering any favours.
Yes, well put.
I mean,
about chasing a cow or a horse. Or something.
And a bit where he can't read German properly. Michael Gambon wearing a sort of Hawaiian necklace. It was.
Well,
it's just like no. I mean, this was hardly even funny in the 1960s, let alone 50 years later. I mean, I have a feeling this is going to be, I can't see any good reviews coming out of this at all when it comes out. Anyway, I gather you watched a couple of films recently. Do you want to talk about those? Brighten it up a bit with a few slightly superior pictures.
Remind me, because
Shall I remind you what you've watched?
Well, I've watched quite a few, so remind me.
Okay. Well, feel free to add any more in if you want to. Then the two I've got down here, which you can do in whichever order you prefer. I guess it's based on a kind of Yorkshire theme. Is Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, the Albert Finney from 1960, and This Is England 2006, the Shane Meadows piece.
Yeah, sure. So to get back on focus, I did watch for purposes of this podcast, watch a few Nottingham-based films.
If you got something crackling down below your feet at all, Toby, just out of interest, or above you?
No, it's. Is
it the rain? Okay.
Rain on my porch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just so the listener knows, because it's happened a few times. Like, what the hell is that? Has he kind of got bubble wrap underneath his laptop and he's feverishly popping it away while he's talking? But yeah, so it's
control of my campfire. No.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
So the first one you mentioned, Saturday Night, Sunday Morning. It's a pretty decent film from about 1960 with a young kinetic Albert Finney. Some really earthy quotes from him, and it's based in Nottingham, filmed incidentally in the factory which used to be the Rally Factory.
Right.
The naked bike I'm riding, and so what else would you like to know about it?
It was good. It was. I assume it's good.
It's sort of,
I mean, I enjoyed it when I watched. I watched it probably about a year ago.
Okay.
I thought it captured the kind of kind of working class drinking culture and lifestyle. I mean, he spends a lot of time in the pub. I mean, I think it kind of I mean, again, I wasn't alive in the 60s. I don't know whether it's true or not, but it did feel like a fairly genuine, if not slightly kind of artistically exaggerated take upon kind of the life of someone like that within that kind of period.
He exhibited. It was palpable, tangible. His sort of anger, his youthful drive to want to, go out and have a good time, and all the rest is propaganda, he says, and he just wanted to go and have party,
get off with women, and then get beaten up.
Party with the ladies, drink a lot of beer, go fishing on a Sunday morning, and not work too hard during the week, which is the
well, as the name suggests, Saturday night, Sunday morning, not Monday to Friday, bit of a drag. Okay. Which actually, did you see I sent you a clip of Albert Finney in his last appearance, because I said get a bit of a James Bond mentioning as usual. Where in Skyfall he played Kincaid, which is James Bond's groundskeeper.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that clip.
Oh, didn't? Okay, well, watch it after. It's quite interesting because he hasn't really turned up in much in recent years, and so we'll see a bit of a dispatch to see what Finney's doing, kind of 55 years on from his appearance in Saturday Night, Sunday Morning. Do you want to talk a bit about This Is England then? Maybe put in the connection and all that.
Yeah, it was mainly filmed in Nottingham. It's based in a. I don't know if it's said in the film, but it's said in the script, a fictional town, or so-called fictional town in the Midlands. But it was in fact filmed mainly in Nottingham, and it's a pretty worthwhile sort of film. And like you say, I did go back and watch it, and enjoyed it again.
Yeah,
really.
well, it's. I mean, it spawned a series of. Well, would you say there's spin-offs or sequels? 'Cause you got like This Is England, and you got This England. That was it, '96, or a series of dates afterwards.
Yeah, it was pretty classy and worthwhile sequels to do with developing the characters as they get older.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it was worthwhile. I didn't watch them avidly, but I like to I like the developments of the what was his name? I forget the character's name.
The kid.
No, the bad boy who was a bit of a racist. Anyway,
yeah. But anyway, actually, well, I would say I think I did see something on. I think it might have been on the front when I was walking through Waitrose the other day. I think I saw it might be on the cover of the Observer or something, or maybe on a page. And I think there was a little article which seemed to be alluding to them might be doing another this. Shane Meadows might be doing another This Is England in the near future. So again, something to keep an eye on. So that runs out of the notes of what you said you were going to talk about regarding films you've watched recently. Anything else to add off the notes? If
Combo was the name of the bad boy.
Oh right, okay.
The character.
Cool. Yeah. Any other?
There's a link. He's also, and sorry, my slightly sketchy research. The same actor had a role in The Damned United, which is another Nottingham-based film.
Yes. Nottingham Forest FC, isn't it? And Brian Clough. I can't remember which one's his son and which one's him.
Yeah. So do you want to go there now?
If you want to do a bit on the, feel free to mention a bit on the Damn United. It's quite well, if you like football, even if you don't like football, good film.
Absolutely, and particularly because of the performance of Stu, the performance of.
I don't know. I don't have it on my notes anymore. I haven't watched it.
It's falling apart. The Welsh actor. Who's excellent.
Okay, and who's he playing? Do you know that much?
He's playing Brian Clough and absolutely nails his characteristics and his accent, and I've heard that from Nottingham people who said he nailed it.
Okay.
Enjoyed it. So
they're happy with his interpretation.
Yeah.
Sorry, just yawning at that point. It's early in the morning for me. Right, should we move on to Robin Hood?
Indeed. How
Robin
could we?
Hood. Okay.
Man, yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, I've got a well. Do you want the question at the beginning or the? Maybe I'll give it you now. I said I was amazed when I looked this up after you mentioned it, how many Robin Hood films there had been. So the question I'm going to ask you is, I don't know what you do to the nearest 5, maybe. I had a look on IMDb. I literally just typed in how many films are there with the title Robin Hood, feature films with the title Robin Hood in them.
Okay.
How many feature films does IMDb list as being Robin Hood?
You say to the nearest 5?
Yeah.
Good Lord! Well, I would have thought if with Robin Hood in the title, I would have said I'd probably guess 6.
It's a lot more than 6.
Yeah. Well, obviously, if you say to the nearest 5.
Yeah, in fact, it can't be 6. I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3. We've got 5 of them just to talk about. And you mentioned the one with Errol Flynn. You've got 6 in total.
Well, I'm amazed. You have to just tell me.
Okay, it's 48.
Oh my God!
That's a lot of Robin Hood films.
Does that include TV films?
No. I went into the advanced search and I ticked the box that said feature films. If you take out. If you took that out, you're getting towards 100 or so if you include TV and everything.
Yeah,
else.
I can imagine that. Yeah.
I would have liked to ask the question because it led on what I was hoping to do, but the data's not there to really be accurate on it. Was about the most filmed fictional character. Although again, it's a bit of a tough one. It's basically there's a lot of debate as to who. There's one of about 3, some for slightly more spurious reasons than others. So.
Okay, so this is your.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago, the Guinness Book of Records. Well, I'm just going to tell you because it's. As I said, the data's not there, but it's quite interesting nonetheless. I think the Guinness Book of Records awarded it to Sherlock Holmes, and that was covering all media, and that was kind of in the I do either 150 or 250, something like that.
includes TV, you mean?
Yeah, that included TV and stuff, and they said it was slightly spurious where they got the data from exactly. Then after that was Dracula, who I think might have greater film presence than Sherlock Holmes. But then some wise asses on the internet said Santa, which is an interesting one because he appears in loads of stuff, none of which a lot will have his name. And then you've got the question of when you've got pictures of like kind of mall Santas, does that then count as appearance from Santa, or is that a person portraying someone? Or is it a person portraying someone who's portraying someone, so therefore it counts as an actor playing Santa? So does that still count in the Santa thing? And if it does, he probably has thousands.
Right.
So in all, yes, that's why I stuck to the Robin Hood thing anyway. I've got a list. Do you have the notes on you, or should I just read out the Robin Hood films we've got here, which we think are interesting to talk about, and you can just pick in order you want to do them? Or should I just read one out and you can say what you think?
Yeah, absolutely, go. Yeah.
Okay, should we start with the animated Robin Hood, the Disney one from 1973?
Yeah, and in fact, I remembered that I don't think it was 73 because I was only been about. It might have been when it came out, but I saw it at the cinema with my mum.
It's raining a lot. No, it stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm having to huddle somewhat. So it met, and I was very young, so I think I saw it on its release date. That might have been.
Right.
It might have been the first film I ever saw.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
How's the memory of it?
It was. Yes, it was quite sweet. I remember the Robin Hood as a fox.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. I was very young.
I was going to say my memory's about the same. I think I watched it when I was probably, probably 6 or a year either side of that, if not less than that. Now, yeah, I just remember one scene of, I think, King John, I think, is in kind of running away from some arrows that Robin Hood's firing, because he goes to some kind of archery contest, and then sort of all hell breaks loose or something. But yeah, I remember it being a fairly decent Disney outing. Should we go? Let's go to the most recent one now. Russell Crowe's Robin Hood, directed by Ridley Scott, and I think it was mostly. I didn't watch it because it was mostly said that Russell Crowe's accent was all over the place. Did you? Have you seen it? Did you feel the same?
Yeah, I've seen it at least. Well, I've seen it twice, I think, and I thought it was a jolly good outing, further outing for that character. I liked the aspect of them having a battle on the beach, which was a bit of a change from in the cliche of in the trees and whatnot. I now have more sympathy with the whole accent issue, having visited this area. The accents are all over the place. Professor Higgins, from My Fair Lady, etc., would have a field day working out people are from, because I sure as hell can't.
So is it the case of Nottingham and Yorkshire get mixed up together, or is it like Derbyshire sufficiently different as well? Yeah,
exactly. But it's hard to quite place them, if not being an expert. But yeah, there's Derbyshire and Yorkshire, and there's some sort of Manchester quirks in there, which I do know a bit because I've got some relatives up there, and I used to go up there.
Okay.
And then a sort of a kind of Midland version, which can be soft or harsh. It's a vary. I have sympathy now with Russell Crowe. Somebody trying to teach him Nottingham accent. It would sort of slightly fry your brain.
Yeah, so basically just speak and receive pronunciation, that's the way forward. And then at least the rest of the world will be happy with it. And, you'll let it go as artistic interpretation in the home counties. So, yeah, it was kind of regarded as being fairly average, that film, when it kind of came out. Would you rank it any higher than that, or is that...
Yeah, I would, and on the right occasion... I would watch it again.
Okay, so
I might even watch it while I'm here.
Okay, would that be your pick of Robin Hood? Because I'll make mention then of the next one, which was probably the last before Ridley Scott's interpretation, probably the last big Robin Hood film, which was back from 1991. It was the Kevin Costner, Morgan Freeman, Alan Rickman, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Better or worse than Ridley Scott's?
Okay, well...
Not as gritty, I imagine.
It was. I think the Ridley Scott one was superior overall. The Kevin Costner was more fun in a kind of slightly hammy Hollywood way. They had the quite famous continuity bungles showing them on Hadrian's Wall, and then next thing they're approaching, like the same afternoon they're approaching Sherwood Forest, which is and they have a long shot of a pine forest, which is
well, I think he also continued from that Hadrian's Wall thing. He also ends up. I think he goes from, because he lands on the White Cliffs of Dover, then he walks along Hadrian's Wall, and then he ends up in a pine forest. Because that's obviously the natural way to get from Dover to Sherwood.
The producers say, "Oh, it's all right. Most of the audience will be American. They won't know."
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I've got some other kind of questions regarding the whole lot of these, so I won't dwell too long on this one. But then you talk about hammy Americanisations of Robin Hood. Obviously, a couple of years later, Mel Brooks did his parody on, well, Robin Hood in general, but mostly Prince of Thieves, which was Robin Hood Men in Tights. Which do you remember watching that? Have you watched it?
I've only watched snippets of it. I think I watched a bit of it, and maybe I just wasn't in the mood because I just thought this is not really making me fall about laughing. It was just seemed to be just one joke really. Oh goodness me, there's some men wearing tights
okay, and it's I thought it was quite. I think in terms of, I mean, it's not up there with Blazing Saddles or the producers in terms of Mel Brooks, or even Young Frankenstein as Brooks's better works. But I thought it's a good. It's better than Spaceballs. That was I found pretty terrible. I thought it was alright. I thought there's some good jokes where a guy's sort of he's fighting, like Robin Hood, I think, is fighting Little John on a tiny little bridge under a tiny stream, and they keep breaking their sticks in two, and he gets smaller and smaller till they're kind of fighting with like a stick about 2 inches long.
I think I've seen that bit.
Then he sort of knocks him into this tiny pool, and he's like got a fear of water or can't swim or something. He's floundering around in this tiny puddle until he's helped out again, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, I think if you haven't seen it in a while and you're in the mood for kind of a really really stupid comedy, I think it's worth giving it. I mean, you do have to be in the right mood, because if you're feeling cynical, it's not going to do much for you. Watching a blind guy fight a post in fast forward until he kind of shaves it down to a sort of apple core, basically. Okay, anyway. So relating to the 48 Robin Hood films, I did know, at least I noticed, because I sent you a message accordingly, is that there seems sort of pre kind of 1940, 1950, they seem to be churning them out every year practically. With the two big ones being, I think, The Adventures of Robin Hood in 1938, which was with Errol Flynn, and I think you mentioned it earlier. There's one, was it 1922 as well? They're kind of like the two main early ones.
Yeah, this was quite interesting because I actually went back to watch it. There's a reconditioned print of the original film that you can watch on YouTube, which is good. It's about 2 hours 40 minutes long, and I'd never actually seen Douglas Fairbanks, not Douglas Fairbanks Jr., but the original King of Hollywood. And I went to see that for that reason, as much as because it was Robin Hood, and wanting to see his famous athletic ability, which he was renowned for, leaping from balconies and swinging on ropes and all sorts of things. And I couldn't have been less impressed with. I could not believe that he was regarded so highly. He wasn't a particularly good-looking man. He looked quite sort of stumpy, and he's a terrible actor. He's hammy to the point of a butcher shop. It was ridiculous, and I just thought, how can people have admired or swooned over this character? I mean, and then I was waiting for the athletic stuff, and it was so drawn out before it, with him doing all this hammy gesturing, and I just gave up in the end. And of course, being silent, you just have these wordy
Yeah, big sort of test cards kind of just going, yeah.
test was going off and
Oh, I
waffling.
need to save Maid Marian again. She's been captured by the Sheriff of Nottingham, etc., etc.
Yes, all wordy and rubbish, and I just, yeah.
Was it done to a piano soundtrack, or was there kind of a proper sound piece to it behind?
Some of it I recognise, so I think they'd actually used on this version. They'd used famous bits of music.
Oh right, okay. Because I think one thing that people often misconceive with early silent films, because obviously you watch them, in the future, and you just basically watch the film with no sound, whereas obviously most of them had a piano score that would go along with them.
Yeah.
Which would fit, which basically they would literally have a piano in the auditorium where it was being watched, and the guy would have his sheet music, and he would play along to the piece you were watching. But anyway, do you want to mention anything on 1938's Robin Hood, or?
Yeah, that's sort of dashing classic stuff.
Errol Finn's a bit more dashing than the earlier Robin Hoods.
Yeah, I can see why Mel Brooks took that element into his comedy, because it does look slightly camp, and he's taking it, I think, literally from the 38 film, where it is all slightly camp. Errol Finn posing in his tights and his little moustache. It's all a bit camp.
Yeah, well, he's kind of like, I suppose his picture is almost a classic. He's the guy that almost defined the sort of classic Robin Hood look, isn't it? So.
Yeah, and I can see the charm, and I think even that film was slightly tongue in cheek. I don't think anybody took that as a kind of dramatisation of a real bunch of people. I think it was just a kind of fable that was turned into a Hollywood. Here's Mr. Flynn and etc.
It's going to take on a bit of a life of its own. So actually, I've got one interesting question to wrap this up. If you've no other Robin Hood films to mention that we've missed.
I have.
Oh, do you? Okay, go on.
Yeah, from 1975. There's actually a Russian film called it's called something like Robin Hood's Arrows, or
Okay.
Arrows of Robin Hood, I think it's called.
Right. Okay.
You can actually see this on YouTube, and the version I saw had only 13 hits. I was the 14th.
You were the fourth. So is it a legitimate film?
Yeah, it's absolute cinema film made in Russia, and this was in the Russian language. So obviously, I did have a problem understanding, with no subtitles. So I did have a problem with the dialogue, as you can imagine. But the action at the beginning was quite good fun. The character is quite looked quite charismatic. He looked a bit like a slightly shorter version of Christopher Lee, actually.
Oh right, okay.
Quite sort of structured.
What era are we talking? Like Christopher Lee in the 60s, like Scarrett, or not? I assume not Christopher. He's not like 80 years old. And
oh no, yes, younger. But when they just started talking, obviously I found it very difficult to follow. But they did have the amusing side point that the female character, I assume, was Maid Marian, although I don't know what she was doing in the hideout or in the wood where they were. I didn't quite understand. Or maybe she was the thwarted sweetheart of Robin Hood while he was burgeoning desires for Maid Marian.
Right.
Anyway, this actress was just terrible. She just kept going. She didn't have any dialogue, but the guys would be talking, and then you get a shot of her, and she'd do this really hammy kind of hand to the forehead, going, and that off, and it was. But I just got fed up of seeing that, and this sort of incessant Russian jargon that I wasn't obviously following. I didn't get too much into it, but it looked quite a pleasing production. Actually.
Okay, so it's evidently findable. You just have to understand Russian, or even if you can read Cyrillics, you still aren't going to get anything out of it because it's not subtitled. Okay, right. So should we wrap this up a touch? I've got one question for you, which is interesting. I want to know from you, given the Robin Hoods we've just looked at, I want to know who was the best Robin Hood, who was the best Sheriff of Nottingham, and who was the best Maid Marian. If you were to compile the best cast, out of that, who would you have? I mean, you can include Disney's Robin Hood as well if you want Robin Hood to be an animated Fox. Feel free.
Yeah.
So yeah, who would you choose as Robin Hood?
Um,
Would it be Errol Flynn? I mean, he's the classic Robin Hood.
I'm 50-50. For the classic, Errol Flynn. For reality, I'd go Russell Crowe actually.
Okay. How about Maid Marian?
Yeah, you might have to cue me on her name, but the one from Prince of Thieves.
That was. I don't know. It was a woman who hasn't been in much at all. Give me a second. I'll try and think of it. If not, I mean, you've got Kate Blanchett in. I know her name. you've got Kate Blanchett in the Russell Crowe Ridley Scott version.
Yeah, no, I thought I'm forgetting the name, but the one in Prince of Thieves I liked.
She was. Oh God. Right, do you want to do Sheriff of Nottingham instead while I try and find this out?
Yeah, that's an easy one. Prince of Thieves again.
Yeah, Alan Rickman.
Of course.
It's got to be Alan. Yeah, the hammiest, most. I mean, it's one of the great hammy evildoer performances.
They apparently had to edit some of his ad libs out because he was absolutely stealing the show from Kevin Costner, who I think had a production credit on that film, and they just had to take it down because he was just too
brilliant. Basically, he was just too brilliant. I mean, his death scene where he spends like 5 minutes kind of dying around the castle. It's just brilliant. It's worth, even if you haven't watched the film, it's worth just. I'm sure someone on YouTube's put Alan Rickman's Sheriff of Nottingham's death scene where he gets sort of stabbed in the heart with that dagger, and then stumbles everywhere. You think he's going to die, and then he gets up and starts stumbling across the room again.
He's right on that film.
Right. So in terms of Maid Marian in Prince of Thieves, it was played by Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
Oh, no wonder I couldn't remember her name. Yeah.
As I said, I did have a look which is why I didn't know her name down. Is that she'd basically not been in anything to note after doing that film, particularly. Come on, IMDb. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'll just check. The Abyss in 1980. Oh, Scarface in 83 apparently, and The Perfect Storm in 2000. So she has been in a bit.
The Abyss.
Huh?
The Abyss.
Yeah, from 1989.
Yeah, that's what. Yes, she's good in that. Yeah, I like that film.
Okay, cool. So we've managed to loop it back around again. Okay. Should we finish off there anyway? And Toby, where are you heading from Nottingham on your journeys?
Workshop direction.
Are you going to be going up the east coast, west coast, or straight through the middle?
No, I'm going up basically to somewhere close to York.
Okay.
I'd like to go to Stamford Bridge, where there was the famous battle with the Vikings.
Indeed.
And then that logically is a good post to then head east across to Scarborough. I don't really want to hit the coast before Scarborough.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, well, I'm sure we'll hear back from you again at some point in the future. Same thing for obviously this Stew review. Another one will turn up when Toby's in a good location. I think it's probably about the best way to go with this. And we'll give you another audio podcast. Okay, more news.
One last point, Robin Hood themed. They are in fact making, to just join your statistics on that, Robin.
Yeah, another one.
They're making another film with Taron Egerton, the young actor from.
Oh yes.
Touted as to play the lead.
Indeed.
I think he'll make quite a good stab at it actually.
Yeah. Well, so I'm sure when a trailer comes out, we will pass on our thoughts of what we've seen. So we will be gone for another indeterminate amount of time, and return again at some point in the future. Maybe in Scarborough, maybe in York, maybe somewhere else.
Like something to think of. I did have an idea that if I did get to somewhere near York, we could do one there, and as a little sideline, do your one or two favourite films from the two actors, Susanna York and Michael.
Okay, we'll try and bear that one in mind. Sort of, there's an interesting twist on the York. I like it. So yeah,
There's a couple. Some not, and I've already done a little bit of research on that, and there's some nice examples from both. So
okay. Well, if anyone else listening or watching all of the two of you or whatever it is, feel free to stick down if there's any York related questions, actors or such likes we can deal with. But yeah, until then, good to speak to you, Toby. Nice doing this sporadic but occasional review.
Nice, funny link up with
exactly.
Rain and
back to good old audio as well. So
because I wanted to show you around the campsite on my tent.
Hey, you can show me, just no one at home will get to see.
Oh, okay.
So do you want to give us an audio tour while you twist it around just before you go?
And you'll have to describe the pictures you see.
Okay, so Toby's standing. He's just got up off his chair.
This is my kind of hobbit home. It's very dark. You won't be able to see in it. So I won't bore you with that. God, it's pouring now.
The second you suggested it.
Right, hold on. Right, I'll give you a long shot of the tent.
It's quite tubular. It's very tubular, in fact.
Does that fit it all in?
Yeah, got the whole thing, other than your finger that's over the camera.
That's my trailer at the back.
Okay, and then you've got your sleeping quarters in the middle, and then your porch at the end.
Yeah, indeed. This is the empty campsite. And there's a nice area down here where you can build a fire, which I've started to build.
Okay, are you going to be here for another night or two, or is that just for the next visitor?
Another 2 nights.
Okay. So there's literally no one else here.
Nobody else here.
I mean, that's pretty picturesque.
Yeah, I really like this area, so I'm going to go and have a bonfire tonight or tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Here's my little fire, which I'm quite pleased with.
All right, is it like the buckets? Is that a new addition, or was have you just...
Yeah, I bought that in Beeston, and there's the tent from the front.
Yeah.
And
is that your sort of like breakfast table on that crate, kind of out the front?
Yeah, that's it. Beneath the oak tree,
Very nice, very
that's
nice.
My laundry over there.
So is has this been your favourite stop off of the journey so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the last one you showed us, you would look like you were in someone's back garden. So this is definitely delightful.
Yeah, that was a bit more of a traditional.
No
place.
caravan. I mean, you wouldn't get a caravan in here, which is, I guess, also quite nice.
I don't know that she allows them. I don't think. I think it's all tent.
Cool. Okay. Well, anyway, before we bore the visitors at home, the listeners at home, shall we say bye now? And
Sure.
we'll go from there. So bye everyone.
See you later.